If you like this podcast, share it with your friends. You can follow us on social media either on Facebook or on Twitter at cleverramblings. If you have any feedback or comments, please mail us at cleverramblings@gmail.com or visit our website cleverramblings.weebly.com. As always, we really appreciate you listening, and now enjoy today's podcast.
Hello, welcome to the Clever Ramblings podcast. My name is Ivan.
And I'm Ann.
And today we will be talking about greatness. What does it mean to be great? We will also be talking about competition. Is competition always a good thing? We'll switch and we'll talk about money in sports. Or money just in entertainment in general. Once you start to amass all this wealth, is your urge to be as great in the field, whether it's music or whether it's sports, is your drive still there? And lastly, we'll talk about the unfortunate murder of rapper XXXTentacion and sort of and both of our views, but it hit close to me. So we'll talk about that. And that's how we'll close. But first and foremost, we need to discuss the elephant in the room to all our 5 fans out there again. Why it's been a month since we last recorded. We've been busy. So I had to finish my first year report for University of Cambridge, because if not, recording would be interesting if I had to record in the United States, because they kick me out.
So back in Germany, so that would be even easier than to record.
Emma's just upset that I'm not in Germany.
Exactly. I wish he would fail his first year report, so he'll be
yeah. See, this is why we can't have nice things, because you never want me to be great.
We're gonna talk about this later, but
of course, and then so I was busy with my report and work, and Em is just doing his escapades and his travel.
No, I had to be at the lab too and write protocols and everything. So
nah, he's been doing some things. But anyway, we won't talk about that because Emma's getting already embarrassed. So anyway.
Okay, Ivan.
So let's talk about our first topic. So the first topic we're talking about is greatness. So I'll start by giving the background is that. So I watched this. So of course, if you care about basketball or anything, the NBA Finals had just finished maybe a week or two ago, and LeBron James, of course, his team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they lost. And this is I think the 5th NBA Finals that LeBron James has lost. And so of course people always compare him to Michael Jordan or some of the greats, and they always discount. They say he can't be the greatest of all time because he didn't win these championships and blah blah blah. They always make up these sort of reasons to why he can't be better than Jordan. Interestingly enough, I watched this Watch Mojo video, put in a link when we upload the podcast, where they compared Michael Jordan and LeBron James based on, I think, 5 different characteristics. So personality, stats, playoffs, championship. Like they basically broke them down into like all their components. And their result was that they said that LeBron James actually is the best player of all time. And I tend to believe that, because I think overall Michael Jordan had more help, less competition than LeBron James has had. And I know this is subjective, but that's really what we're getting into. What does it really mean to be great?
Well, it depends on the definition. What you define as great? As winning all the time, like Jordan did, he never lost the NBA Finals, or being like individually great, like putting up the numbers. That's then defines what really greatness is.
I tend to look at, and even just outside, not necessarily just restricted to sports, but I tend to think of greatness in just totality. Like I like how Watch Mojo did it. They didn't just look at them as simply like during one dimension. When people discount, for example, LeBron James, they really talk about his his championships, because in every other statistic almost he beats Jordan.
Yeah.
Except like MVPs and scoring titles. But basically all of his, by the time he retires, LeBron James will have basically the best stats of any basketball player.
Yeah, he could be the only one that breaks Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's scoring record, and that's unheard of before him. Like, nobody thought that that's gonna ever be touched, so.
Right. And also, so the only statistical category that he probably won't beat Michael Jordan is, he's already beat him in playoffs. I think he's won more playoffs, he's scored more points, blah, 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 but the only thing he won't win is championships, right? So when I tend to look at greatness, whether it's in sports, whether it's in music, like for example, like rappers or something, who's the greatest rapper of all time, I tend to look at multiple aspects of them. I don't look at, okay, does this person have a number, like for example in hip hop, is it the number of hit songs that you have? Well, okay, that's one criteria, but also it's about how lyrical are you, or how well can you rhyme? What content do you talk about? Are you diverse enough? So I break it down into multiple things. To me personally, I don't like it when people talk about greatness, which I think a lot of mainstream conversation about greatness does focus on one or two aspects of a person's greatness and says, oh yes, this person is great.
So you're saying if you define like the greatness in a topic like music overall, not just, for example, the best rapper, he had the best lyrics, but other aspects of music too that define like the greatest rapper, not just one specific thing.
Right.
Because you could say he was the greatest at writing lyrics. He was the greatest at whatever, rapping the songs. And so you could say that in basketball too or in other parts. But you are saying that if you look at a topic like music, sports, you have to look overall at more points that define this. Okay.
Right. You can't just, because a person, going back to hip hop, a person could really great at writing lyrics and rapping, and they could be unbelievable lyricists, but then if they can't make a good song, then who yes, you are, maybe, to me there's a difference between being the best and being the greatest.
Okay.
The best and greatest are not always the same thing. Like for example, I would say Jay-Z back to hip hop. I know we talk about hip hop and basketball a lot, but we're very limited in the examples that we have. You know, we
can talk about science too. Who's the greatest?
We'll talk about science too. But it's hip hop, right? Like, I would say that Jay-Z and Tupac are greater than Eminem, right? Which Eminem is one of my favorite rappers. However, Eminem is a better rapper than both of them, than both Tupac and Jay-Z.
Okay.
Lyrically, technically, when you think about skill level, Eminem is way, in my opinion, is above them.
Okay, yeah.
But there are things that Jay-Z and Tupac can do, or did, in music that Eminem didn't. Sometimes Eminem out-raps a song. He raps too much, and it's like, dude, like, you kind of ruined the song, because this song could have been really chill, but you didn't have to rap a million words in this one song.
Yeah.
You could relax, you know, like, and so in that sense, I would say that Eminem is better in the rapping category, but he's not greater, because Jay-Z has better flows, he has better cadence sometimes, he has better songs, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Talks about more diverse issues, and same with Tupac and stuff. So that's how kind of I range the difference. So for me, when people talk about greatest, like as far as LeBron and Jordan, I think you have to look at multiple aspects. I do believe that LeBron was also a better player than Jordan. If you took both of them in their prime and had them play 1-on-1, I think that LeBron James is better.
Well, you couldn't stop LeBron, so I don't think like Jordan could stop LeBron.
Right. So I would say greater. Like I would say he's better. And as far as greatness, that's when the conversation gets a little bit more difficult. But I wouldn't discount LeBron just because of the championships.
I think like that's the only thing you can say, that he didn't win as much championships as Jordan, or lost that many times in the finals. If you had the same championship number, or if he won 5-3, I think there would not be a real conversation, because what he did is first of all, in nowadays NBA, it's way harder. It's more athletic. There is much more talent there, not only from the States, but international. And Jordan had a lot of support. And who did LeBron have? The first finals he went with, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they had like shit. They had like Ilgaskers. And they went up against the Spurs, who were like this super team with Tony Parker, with Tim Duncan. So he had no chance. And basically, the only thing that you can really say that he messed up was the one that he lost against the Mavericks. Of course, I'm happy that he lost because Dirk Nowitzki, but that's a different conversation. But anyway, so I think if that would change...
Who cares about Dirk, M?
Shut up. He's the greatest basketball player in Germany and one of the best in the NBA at all times.
Blah, blah, blah.
Shut up. Blah, blah, blah. But, so if that would change, I think that the conversation would really change. And this also shows you what really, like, these little nuances that really change how we talk about one, if he's great or not. It's just like this, like 12 games or 15 games that he lost in the finals. If he won that, maybe also the greatest of all time. So it also shows you that greatness is like defined by these little nuances that if they
right,
change,
exactly. And you have to, and basically the point we're trying to make, I think, is that you have to look at it. There's a big difference between best and greatest.
Yeah.
And with greatest, you have to get more of a wide scope of things. With better, you can zero in on these narrow things. They just for like, even to, as the last example, before we like, wrap this topic up, like you could think of like even in science, Darwin, right? The Charles Darwin who discovered, at least, his theory of evolution, right? Probably definitely one of the top 5 greatest biologists of all time. Greatest. Was he the best biologist?
No, he wasn't.
Probably not, right? He wasn't he paid a lot of attention to detail. He was really great and really, really, really good. But have there been better biologists in history than him? Yes. There's been better ones that pay more attention to detail, make better experiments, but the thing is, what makes Darwin great is when you add up all the things that Darwin did together, that makes Darwin greater. Because he took observation, he took theoretical stuff, he took being able to write so that it would be able to be communicated to people. And he took all these sort of aspects and put them together. And that's what makes Darwin a greater biologist than, say, I don't know a specific example, but there's probably biologists nowadays that we don't necessarily know that much about, but who are greater scientists.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say, because he was lucky. He had this topic that no one ever before knew, and that is so important in our world. So there are probably scientists out there who are really, really great and probably greater than him, but they don't just have that luck that they find like this big breakthrough, like, CRISPR-Cas9,
right.
For example. This was a big breakthrough in the last couple of years. And there are probably many more scientists who could do the same shit, but they are just not as lucky on working such an important topic or whatever, so they don't get that recognition like he did. Right.
So since these other scientists, they may be better, skill level, they may be better, but they're not greater than the ones who actually discovered CRISPR or evolution. So that's sort of the distinction that we want to make. Cause I get very annoyed when people talk about greatness and who's the greatest, and they always have these very narrow categories, no matter what it is, whether it's music, literature, science, sports, anything. It's just like, come on, like better and greater are two different things in our opinion.
Yeah.
So
true.
Yeah, but I think so we can wrap that up.
Yeah, and move to competition, right? Competition.
Oh man, competition. I'm gonna talk. It's gonna be more hip hop talk again.
Oh man.
Hip hop is like my religion, man. You gotta understand.
Okay, yeah.
So it's the closest thing to religion that I have, but so the idea with like competition, right, is you have two or more entities that make a similar product, or they're in a similar space, right? So it could be a retail store, a grocery store. It could be two musicians, and maybe they're in the same genre, right? And but their music, their content can be different, but they're in the same genre. So like hip hop or R&B or rock, and they're compared, so and their fans kind of overlap, or their consumers overlap in who's buying or consuming the material.
Yeah.
Right. And the thought is that, of course, it's always bad to have a monopoly, because if you have a monopoly, then you're the only player in town, because no one, you don't necessarily care to make your product better.
Yes.
Right. You'll just kind of do whatever. But competition is supposed to bring the best out of every individual. But is competition sometimes too much? Is there like some type of sweet spots where competition should be held, as opposed to, like, for example, you could think about Tupac and Biggie, or even a lot of rap battles.
Not only hip hop, but competition in general. You can see it with the free market. Is too much competition too good? Is it going against some special people, like, of course, the workers in the free market, that the competition between two companies is so big that they have to lower the cost all the time? And how do you do that? You produce your products cheaper by either outsourcing the work, so you lose your job, or you pay your workers less. So not only in hip hop, but in general, like, competition overall. Is it good? At a certain point, does it stop to be good? Because, of course, we don't want, like, communism. That there's no competition at all and you get bad products. But is there a point where competition is too much and gets put on the backs of other people just for the benefit of the two entities who compete with each other?
Right. And that's kind of like, because I've been thinking about this a lot. And for me, like, you brought up market, but for me, like, it's easier to think about this as far as hip hop. Like, if you have like a rap battle, right? Like, so it's one person disses one rapper disses another rapper. Yeah. And they're competing, they're both rappers and they both want to be the best. And it goes from a diss, which is short for just a disrespectful song. And eventually it becomes violent.
Yeah.
Right? Or one person or people get killed in the case of Tupac and Biggie, right?
Yeah.
Which, to me, sometimes when in music and hip hop, when things get violent, that's when competition went too far. Yeah. You went from keeping it on in the music to physically assaulting people or hurting people.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's where this question came from for me. And so I do think that sometimes competition can be a bad thing. I think even, and like you said, even with market, even with companies, right?
Yeah.
Like, if they compete with each other to the point where it's only about beating the other person, and it's like, I'm literally just trying to destroy this other company, then you're not really focusing on the consumers at all.
Yeah.
You're just focusing on your own ego. Yeah. Right? So it's not even this competition to no point. It's just attacking.
Yeah.
Right? Do you have like an example, like, from that you know of? Like, cause I could state like a very specific point from hip hop, but do you have like an example that you can think about off the bat where competition went wrong?
Well, also in science, competing with producing papers or stuff like that. You're just trying to, like, publish shit just to beat another person, and, for example, being better, or like manipulating your data so that you are only competing with this person and don't care about the science anymore, and, like you said, don't focus on the consumer anymore, stuff like that you just care about yourself and that you want to beat this other person. And that's also kind of a human thing, like this ego thing, that you just want to be better than everybody else. I think, like, everybody has that in him. So.
Right. And I just think sometimes it's unfortunate. Like I really like your science example, because that happens, because we're both scientists, and that happens all the time, where it's like, instead of trying to produce truth or the best science, we're arguing about who's better as scientists or as people. It's not about us. It's about the work. It's about the research.
And I know, like, friendships that broke over, like, competition. I know from experience where I've been that there was someone, they worked together for like 5 years and they had a good relationship. And then someone discovered a new thing that he wanted to publish. and the other one basically stole his work and published it too. And they were friends before, and just over that, just so you get the recognition for that, although the other person did all the work, it's just like stupid.
Yeah. So never compete with me, Em. I don't think we should compete.
Where
because,
should we compete? We work in two different fields in science, so I'm not gonna steal your work.
They didn't know that. Like, why you gotta tell everyone what we do? Like, you giving everyone so much information.
We told them at the beginning. In the first episode.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. You got it.
Okay, that shows how important the podcast is to you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you just, I feel like this is a lot of like, you know, you're throwing a lot of shade my way, Em, and I'm really not liking this because you just think that I don't care about this podcast, but I love this podcast and I love all the people in this podcast. I was busy. Okay.
Yeah.
I was busy.
I give you the benefit of the doubt, but.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fuck you. How about that one?
We're not swearing on this podcast, Ivan.
Yes, we really.
No, if we want advertisers.
We're never making money off of this shit. Okay, I just want to let you know, it's never happening. Like, you know, we're gonna have all 50 people listen to this shit every week, and that's it. They're not gonna donate a goddamn dollar.
Yeah, well, then we have to get like a company who advertises on our podcast.
Whatever. Why are we talking about this on this episode? This is how we get sidetracked. See, I blame you, Em. Don't stop competing with me.
It's called Clever Ramblings, so we are allowed to ramble off sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. Like, in conclusion, competition is good because it tends to produce the best product, but you have to go in between not competing at all and competing too much.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Competition for competition's sake is not good. Just don't compete with people just to compete. Compete for a purpose of making the best product. And that doesn't matter what you do, whether it's if you make clothes, if you paint, or you music, science, whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Which you're going to introduce, because this is something that Em was like, oh, I really want to talk about this one. So I was like, okay, fine. We'll talk about your topic, Em.
Yeah, because
love so much.
You always want to talk about the topics you like, because no, I'm not. I don't want to start a fight.
Yeah, go ahead. Keep talking shit. Keep talking shit. Keep going. Like you just really like. You know what? You just wait till I see you again, man. I'm telling you.
When I'm coming in July.
Talking so much shit. Okay, you got it.
No, but so the next.
Go ahead and introduce your topic, Em, to the listeners.
Stop interrupting me. Stop it.
I'm done. I'm so done. I'm so done with you. Like, I'm so done.
No, but so the next thing would be money in sport, and if it's any good, if it's corrupting sport. So because maybe not a lot of the people in the States, well, probably also knew that the Soccer World Cup just started a couple of weeks ago, and unfortunately Germany is already eliminated, so...
Hey.
Shut up. But, so, the FIFA, the World Football Organization, is like the corruptest thing ever. So they changed like their president the last couple of years. And it's all about the money anymore. So if you look at the last couple of World Cups, they built like this big stadiums in like South Africa, now they're in Russia, and so they build this, they get the money, and then they just leave the country and don't care about the country anymore, don't care about the people anymore. And I was thinking, like, does money corrupt sports? Because that's not only in soccer, I think that's also in the NBA, all the players get like this 20 million contracts and upwards, and also in football and everywhere, like is it only about the money anymore? Because I think like rarely you find people anymore who really care about the sport and not about the money. You can see that if they want to sign new contracts, they are not looking for their team they played with for like 10 years or the team that is the best for them. They just want the most money. And I think that really changed sports, that there's such a commercialization of sports and they get so much money. And I don't know if that's really good for the sports. On the one hand, it is good because, of course, the more money they get, the more people are interested in becoming like this great sportsman in whatever sport. But on the other hand, they only play for the money anymore and it's not about the sport anymore. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. And I think, of course, like, I mean, as you've mentioned, like, I think it extends to other areas as well, whether it's music, whether even if it's acting or something. It's like sometimes like even like you think about some like TV shows, sometimes like they're delayed because the actors want more money. And it's like, I understand especially if you didn't get a lot of money in beforehand, but sometimes these people are all millionaires. It's like you're millionaires complaining about not having more millions.
Yeah. That's also crazy if you think about that. If you look at a basketball game, a football game, whatever, in sports now, you look at millionaires playing sports. You don't really think about that if you're not looking at their contracts. You're just looking and you think like they are great sportsmen, but if you look at that, it's like millionaires playing sports. It's crazy.
Right. And it's like, especially some of these in American football, like some of these people that signed that make like 20 million a year or something like that. You have to think about, there's 16 games in a regular season in the NFL. Whether they win or lose, this person got paid over $1 million per week.
And of course they're training and everything, but still, that's a lot of money for doing sport.
But the thing is, if you love to do it, the training should be okay. Right? It's like I complain about my work because, sometimes it's stressful, blah, blah, but it's what I want to do. I want to do research, right? So they shouldn't complain about, I have to practice and stuff. You've been doing this since you were how old? Like, you should be okay with practice and stuff. So that's what I'm saying. Like, sometimes you won't get football players or basketball players because they care about, my contract currently will allow me to make 40 million over the next 5 years, and I want to make like 80 million. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Like, my life is it's like rich people problems that I just don't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I don't get it. So I think money has corrupted, a lot of, whether it's a lot of things, not just sports, but also music. It's like, you get people who won't even release music because they're not being paid. Like, I remember when I first heard are you familiar with Tidal?
No.
Well, it's a streaming service that was created by Jay-Z, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I didn't know the name, but I know he did a streaming service.
And their advertisement for it was Jay-Z, Beyonce, Madonna, Rihanna, J. Cole, like all these superstars, rich ass people, right? Saying that, we want artists to get paid fairly and to be able to get paid more because they're getting ripped off. And I'm sitting there, and Jay-Z's actually addressed this. Like, he said that they probably shouldn't have released that trailer because it did look like a whole bunch of rich people complaining, which it literally just did. It's like, you have Madonna, who's worth $500 million. You have Jay-Z, who's worth now $900 million. You have Beyonce's worth $5 million. Yeah. Rihanna's worth 100. Like, why are y'all complaining about being ripped off? Y'all are, come on. You made more yesterday than I'm gonna make in the next 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's I don't get it.
Yeah. If you're that rich, you just want more and more money. That's not only music and sports, it's in general, it's in the economy. Like Jeff Bezos, what's his name? The CEO of Amazon. What's his last name?
Bezos. Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, he's how many billions? 40 billions?
No, I think he has, his net worth, I think, is 112 billion.
So, yeah, whatever. This high sum that he's never gonna spend his entire life. He could literally spend 10 millions a day probably, and he earns that the day. So, what's the point in even getting more money? But he still wants to get more money, and this also goes on the back of the workers' event that we talked before. But still, it's if you have that much money, why can't you be satisfied with the ones you have? Especially as so many people have so much less than you do. That's so crazy.
Right, and it's I don't know. So I think it is a general human nature problem, I think, is what we're kind of getting at. It's like, and to me, it's just really sad because they start, like, whether it's a musician, they start making music to make, like, more poppy songs to make more money, or whether it's a basketball player, you can tell, like, once they get that money, they don't seem to play as hard unless they're getting paid as much. And then sometimes when they lose, it's like they kind of it doesn't seem like the passion is there, right? Yeah. It seems like the more money they get, the less passion is there, and it makes the work or the art or the product worse. And so I just think, like, I don't know, that you need to stop. Money needs to stop being as big of a factor in what you're doing, especially if you're already rich.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're already rich, like, just make the best shit. And if you make here's the thing, if you make the best shit and it's really that great, you don't have to conform to what everyone else is doing. If you're that great, people will like your shit for what it is, and they'll buy it because of what it is.
Yeah.
Right? But I guess the lesson here is really that money corrupts just about anything.
Yeah, that's sad, yeah.
Yes.
But what could you do about that? Nothing. You have to also say that if the demand is high, you get money for that, so can't do anything about it. Look at the TV contracts the sport leagues have, like billions of dollars they get from TV companies, so they can pay their athletes more, and it's gonna corrupt everything, and it's all about money anymore, and not about the sports, the music, the whatever. It's also in science, the research. It's all about money. I know a friend that wanted to do work with ants. So one thing we both know a little bit about, but he couldn't find a job because nobody wanted to give the money for ant research, because in the free economy nobody cares about ants, to be honest. So what did he do? He started a zookeeping job as a master's. He has a master's degree in biology. Like, that's also because money decides what is important and what is not. And in this case, ants wasn't important, so he couldn't find a job. Although he had like this high degree and was really good. So, money, man. I don't know what you can do about this. I don't see like big change in the next couple, or even in our lifetime. I don't see any change that money says where the world is going.
I think it might. I think there's a potential. I don't think we're gonna switch to cryptocurrency. I think we're gonna with the future, like, you know, I'm like a futurist and stuff like that. I think that eventually money will become obsolete, or at least our understanding of money will become obsolete, which I think will be a great thing, because I think it's gonna make us look at things for what they are and not just based on what price they are.
Why would this change? Why do you think like money would be, or the meaning of money as we know it will be obsolete? Because then there has to be replaced by something, right?
Because like for example, right, resources, like limited resources.
Yes.
Right, make certain things really valuable. So
yeah.
If you think about gold or you think about diamond,
yeah,
the only reason that they're expensive, really, I mean, they're pretty, but also mainly because they're rare.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if, like, I don't know, like with nanotechnology or some type of process, we were able to just artificially make diamonds and gold.
Yeah.
Like in our living room. Then the price of gold would go down. It'd still be the same gold, but it will go down because it's not as a commodity. It's not rare anymore. Right?
But that's only rare things. Like, that's one part of why money is important, but on the other hand, like goods. You have a great product and you're gonna sell it for money. That's what's also important, that money is the big thing in our world. Because for exchange of money, you get goods. And that's, I think, not only the rare parts like diamonds and gold. That's one part. But also another part that really defines money is the exchange for goods. That's why it was introduced in the first time. So I don't know if it really would go away, because you still need something to get this. If they don't start sharing it for free, how would you get these goods? How would you get food? How would you get your iPhone? How would you get your laptop or whatever?
No, but with nanotechnology, like with what I'm saying is like with nanotechnology or even like synthetic food, the idea would be that we'd be able to create all of these things. Because if they're just chemicals, right? Food is just chemicals. And sorry, listeners, food is just chemicals. That's what it is. But if they're just chemicals and you can make them and reproduce them, then there would be no need for giving money for
But who's gonna produce that and who's gonna sell that? Who's gonna be able to have the nanotechnology in the first place?
Well, initially the idea is initially it'd be very expensive. But then with technology, things start off expensive, but then they gradually go down. Like if you think about sequencing DNA and all these different things, the idea is maybe within like, say it's invented tomorrow, right? Just hypothetically, maybe within 50 years, it'll be basically so cheap that it wouldn't be, you know what I mean? And then what I'm saying is if you eliminate the need for resources and goods, then I think our whole concept of value even changes, right? Like it goes like some people will look at a piece of art, right? And you'll say, how much is it worth? Right? And someone will say, oh, it's priceless, right? Cause the way they're valuing art is not based on its monetary value. It's just based on the significance of when it was painted, what it represents and everything like that. It's not about, this costs $100 million because it was painted by so and so. It's like, okay, what actually is going on in the painting, this piece of art? So I think in art, at least, you see, at least in drawings and maybe sculpture, you see a lot more appreciation just for the thing itself. And it's regardless of how much you think it costs, because they admire the beauty, they admire the message, right? So I think art has it in a lot of, I mean, you know, some art they care more about money, but I think in certain things, like you're never going to be able to sell them, buy the Mona Lisa. Like people put a value on it, like I think 600 million or something like that, but no one's ever going to, like the Louvre is never going to sell the Mona Lisa, right? So it's just priceless.
But why? Because it makes them money.
Well, it does make them money because it's in the museum, but I'm saying if I came and was like, okay, I'm going to give you $1 billion for this, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they would sell it.
No, probably because it makes them more money.
I don't think it makes them that much more money.
Because
what they can do is they can make a replica. There's I think there's even a rumor that the Mona Lisa that you see if you go to the Louvre is not I don't know this for certain, I don't know. But
I thought that you only allowed to be in there for like 5 minutes and only like 10 people. Or it's with the 16th chapel in Rome. I know that the painting on the ceiling from
Michelangelo,
you're only allowed as a group of like 10 to 20 or something like that to be in there for like 5 minutes because of the humidity from your breath. And so I don't know if it's the same with the Mona Lisa. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think it is. I think that it's in a way that like a lot of people can see it. And so the rumor is that it's not even a real Mona Lisa. It's more like it's a replica.
I've never been there, so I don't know.
Yeah, the idea is that it's a perfect replica. And so like say they just like, you know what I mean? So it's going to make them money regardless because no one's going to know whether it's really the real painting.
Yeah, but you would find out. I don't think like that's going to be like back alley deal where they give you the Mona Lisa and you give them like $1 billion. Would be big news, so everybody would know if they're going to sell the Mona Lisa.
Not if they did it under the table. You don't know.
Oh, come on. It's like that they wouldn't do that.
Look, we're going.
Maybe they already sold it.
Yeah, we're going way off topic. The point is that I really think that the way we should think about, especially if it's something that you like to do, whether it's sports, music, whatever your passion is, like, yes, it's important that you make a living, but it's more important that you just do what you really want to do. And when you let money dictate your passion, I think that's really sad. You know, I think that's like, you know, you'd rather not play in a game, or you'd rather not release an album that you've been working on for a year because you don't think that you'll get amount of money that would change our life because we broke.
Yeah, but
But for
it's
you,
not really changing. Yeah.
it's not really changing your quality of life that much.
Yeah.
Right? And so you kind of think of, what are you doing? You know, so that's kind of what we're trying to say is that, you know, money is not everything. Money corrupts a lot of shit. So do what you want to do and what you're passionate about. And that's really what's important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're both in science not to get rich. At least I'm not. I don't know how you feel. But...
And I told you, I'm selling out as soon as I'm telling you. You wait, I'm selling out. You just wait, man. As soon as I get a paper and people want to fund me, man, I am out. Goodbye.
So, okay, now we know how you feel. But let's go to the last topic then. So that's more of your thing. So
yeah, this is so. So when I heard this news, it really hurt. It really struck me a lot. When there's a rapper that we had talked about that was, of course, he was accused and probably had done some of the things he was accused of, domestic violence, and I think he also assaulted a gay man while he was in prison. I believe he admitted to doing this. So both of his accusations and the things that he did, and the things that he admitted to doing, I think were both, you know, horrendous things. Like, we don't condone this at all. But he was murdered, like, you know, I think a week ago now. And it was one, I was surprised when I saw that he got killed. Right. But then I was very upset by the comments on Twitter and social media and even what people were saying in the internet about, oh, well, you know, this guy was accused of this and blah, blah, and probably did this, and he beats women and all these and these things, and he assaulted a gay person, and he said he did, he admitted it, he's bad. And so I'm thinking, yes, the things that he did were terrible, right? But this dude was gunned down, and he was 20 years old. He was 20. He was a fucking kid. I mean, not in the sense of, you know, he's 20, so he's older, but like, think about this, like, he was only 20. Like, I'm 24, you're what, 22?
Yeah.
Like, man, I mean, I didn't do any of the things that he did when I was 20, but shit, like, if like, I look at, like, my old Facebook posts, I think about some of my, like, old, like, people I hung out with. Gee, like, if like, you were to judge me now based on how I was in 20, man, that shit is embarrassing. Right? And so for me, like, the problem is, I think, and it was a tweet that someone, tweeted. I don't think it was a famous person. I think it was a random person, like a normal person. It said, you know, do I think that XXXTentacion was a good person? No. But it said that the sad thing is that he'll never have a chance to become one. And I think that that's so true. And I think we tend to throw people away. It's like it brings me up to a larger point. It's like, can people actually change? Can people be rehabilitated? Because if you just judge people, like, say he was like 40 years old, like, say he meant to be 40. And he went to prison, served time for assaulting his ex-girlfriend, and well, I don't think he didn't get in trouble for assaulting a gay man, because I think they were in prison, so I don't think anything happened for that. But like, whatever he was charged for, say he went to prison and did his time, did his sentence, got out when he was, say, 22, and then when between 22 and 40, he did nothing but be great, like, do great things. At 40, yes, you know, people would still hold him to when he was 22. And like I said, we're definitely not, please don't listen to this and think we're victim blaming or we're sympathizing with what he did or empathizing with what he did.
Yeah. We just think that people can change, and
right.
So especially at that young age, I talked with a friend about that last time on a different topic, but in general, that the time I spent in college from, like, I was 18 to now 22, I changed so much what I care about, what my opinions are. I think that especially at such a young age, you do some stupid shit. You're young. And I think that especially as he was that young, he could have changed. And even if he didn't change, I think nobody deserves to get murdered. So I don't like the death penalty. I think like this people are like really, really bad people, but I think like you are not entitled to decide who's gonna live or who's not. I think as a human, you're not entitled to decide that. And so I think like nobody deserves to get gunned down, even if you're assaulted or did bad shit. You have to be punished for that, but you are not gonna get killed for that, in my opinion.
Right. And to me, that was the part that really fucked me up, because I'm sitting there like, and he had a really difficult like childhood, and his music was really, really sad, like very depressing. He probably suffered from mental issues and things of that nature. And it's like, yes, did he deserve to be punished in some way? Did he deserve to maybe go back to prison? Yes. But it's like, come on, like we've seen so many black men, we've seen just so many people in general, like die and get killed, and without being able to change or even opportunity. Like, we never know. He could have been like an asshole for the rest of his life. Yeah. He could have never changed. But the problem is he would never get a chance to try. And I think he was towards the later end. He was donating to more charities. He was doing more positive things and stuff. So he was looking like he was trying to go on that positive trajectory. But sad. I mean, he's going that. So that really like, but I remember I called you and I was like, I texted him and I was like, like I'm like pissed off, because I couldn't believe how like people just forget how to be human sometimes. Like, dude, this guy just fucking died. Like, he just got fucking killed.
Yeah.
Like, and where I'm from, that shit is not funny. Like, that shit is not a joke. It's not something that people deserve. It's not something that like, and he was from the hood too. It's like that's not how you settle things, right? We have systems in place that are supposed to rehabilitate people and make them better people. Now, if you think that if you think he couldn't change, do you think he couldn't be a better person? I think you need to turn some of your attention also to the systems that you think won't help him change, right? Don't just look at like him, because if you think, prison won't help him, well, shit, why are we fucking sending him to prison? The point of sending him to prison is to help him, right? So in that sense, it's like, so I just thought overall it was like just really sad. I was like, whenever someone gets killed or someone dies before they, like that shit is not anything to laugh at or anything to like, to poke fun of or make light of. And so, I just, that shit was just disheartening. I just couldn't believe so many people, and it was a lot of people too, that were like saying, like, good for him, or we don't really care that he died, or stuff like that. It's like, well, damn. Like, shit. Like, I know he may not have been a greatest of human beings, but shit, like that gives you the right to say whether this person lives or dies. Like, to me, that's fucked up.
Yeah. I totally agree.
So yeah, you could, and you could have not felt sorry for him dying. That's fine. If especially if you're a victim, like if you were a victim that either experienced it firsthand, or people who experienced violence, domestic abuse, or any type of violent crime or something like that. I understand you not necessarily shedding a tear, or you not necessarily being like, oh my God, I'm so sad. But that doesn't mean you should necessarily celebrate. In my opinion, that doesn't mean you should celebrate this person getting murdered, especially at such a young age.
Yeah, I think you never should celebrate somebody getting killed.
Yeah. So that's
something.
That's my thing. It's like, you don't have to necessarily like him, or you don't necessarily have to, feel sorry about it, but the fact that people were cheering about it, I thought was like, wow, like that's really what we come to. So I mean, I think especially at this topic, like, if y'all hear this, like, I would want y'all to get, give feedback on this, because maybe you feel differently than we do about it, and maybe I'm, because I've never been abused, I've never been assaulted, I'm not a victim of these things, so not necessarily saying you have to tell us that you've been a victim, or what we're saying is, like, if you have a different viewpoint, we would like to really learn where you're coming from. Because for me, I don't understand enough because I haven't went through it. So I would like to, to evolve, and maybe my understanding. But I don't think I'll ever celebrate someone getting murdered or anything like that. So.
Okay, I think we're gonna wrap it up with this.
And we will definitely now, because now that M is more responsible and stuff, and we're gonna be able to release, podcasts, at least every 2 weeks. Maybe we'll release one next week as well, depending on if M has time for me. But
I always have time for you. It depends on you. If you have time for me, with all your work you are doing. Like Cambridge is that stressful. I can't imagine that.
so much shade you have my way. Okay, it's fine. I love you, man. It's alright. It's okay. It's cool.
So thanks everyone for listening, and we're gonna see you the next time.